a restaurant built to outlast its founder. From the beginning, the question was uncomfortable. What happens after the person who defines everything is gone? This story matters now because so many creative institutions are built around a single name, a single vision, a single voice. When that voice disappears, the work often collapses with it. To understand how one restaurant was designed to outlast its founder, we need to return to a moment when succession was treated not as an afterthought, but as the core idea. Because today, the same fragility exists wherever legacy depends on one person alone. The founder was celebrated early. Interviews followed. Awards accumulated. The restaurant became synonymous with his presence. Guests asked for him by name. Critics framed every success through his personality. He noticed the danger immediately. Admiration concentrates power. Power narrows perspective. The restaurant risked becoming a monument instead of system. So he began building invisibly. Processes mattered more than personality. Decisions were documented, debated, and shared. Recipes were not protected as secrets. They were taught as frameworks. The kitchen hierarchy flattened over time. Senior cooks rotated leadership. No single station belonged to one person. Authority moved with responsibility, not title. Guests never saw this work. The dining room felt seamless. The food remained consistent. But inside, the restaurant was being quietly disinterred. Some questioned the approach. Investors worried about brand dilution. Advisors argued that mystique required a figurehead. The founder disagreed. Mystique fades. Structure endures. Then came the true test. The founder stepped back from daily service. Not dramatically, just gradually. Nights passed without him present. Nothing changed. That absence revealed the truth. The restaurant did not weaken. It stabilized. And that realization would soon redefine what legacy could actually mean. As the founder receded from the center, something unexpected happened. The restaurant did not lose its voice. It multiplied it. Cooks who once executed began interpreting, not wildly, not rebelliously, but confidently. Decisions were made without waiting for approval. Problems were solved collectively. The kitchen learned to think instead of defer. This shift was uncomfortable at first. Without a single authority, disagreements surfaced. Debates took time. Services slowed. But within that friction, resilience formed. The restaurant stopped relying on instinct alone. It relied on shared understanding. Guests sensed a change, though they struggled to name it. The food felt calmer, more balanced, less performative. The dining room felt grounded, not reactive. Industry peers watched closely. Many assumed quality would slip without the founder's constant presence. Some waited for decline. None came. Instead, the restaurant grew stronger in subtle ways. Staff retention improved. Burnout decreased. Creativity distributed itself naturally. The kitchen no longer chased the founder's approval. It chased clarity. The founder observed quietly. He resisted stepping back and when small imperfections appeared. This restraint was deliberate. If the system only worked when he intervened, it did not work. Then came a defining moment. A major award was given while the founder was absent entirely. The team accepted it without mentioning him, not out of disrespect, but accuracy. The message was clear. The restaurant was no longer a person. It was a practice, and that practice was about to face its greatest challenge. The greatest challenge arrived not through crisis, but through temptation. Success attracted offers that tested the very structure the restaurant had built. Expansion, franchising, partnerships that promised scale without effort. The team debated intensely. Growth could secure a financial future. It could spread the philosophy further, but it also threatened the balance that made the system work. Scale concentrates power again. Distance weakens shared understanding. The founder watched without guiding the decision. This was the test he had prepared for. If the restaurant still needed his judgment, it had failed its own premise. The team chose restraint. Not total refusal, but selective patience. They declined rapid expansion. They invested instead in training, documentation, and mentorship. New leaders were grown internally, not imported. That choice confused outsiders. Why limit reach when demand was high? Why refuse easy legacy? The answer lived inside the kitchen. The restaurant did not exist to multiply locations. It existed to sustain standards without dependency. Then came the inevitable moment. The founder announced his permanent departure. No farewell tour, no final service, just a quiet transition of ownership and responsibility. The industry braced for decline. Headlines predicted dilution. Critics sharpened expectations. The spotlight intensified precisely when the founder stepped away. The first months passed without incident, then the first year, then several. The food remained consistent. The culture remained intact. New ideas emerged without breaking identity. The restaurant had crossed a threshold few ever reach. It had become self-sustaining. And in doing so, it redefined what survival actually looks like. Years after the founder's departure, the restaurant no longer carried a shadow. New guests discovered it without knowing his name. Staff referenced principles, not personalities. The work spoke without attribution. Legacy revealed itself differently than expected, not through monuments or stories, but through continuity, night after night, service after service. Standards held without supervision. The founder remained absent by design, not to prove independence, but to protect it. His success was measured by how unnecessary he had become. Other institutions studied the model. Few replicated it fully. Letting go is harder than building. Trusting systems over ego requires discipline few possess. Today, the restaurant stands as quiet evidence that durability is not accidental. It is design. Legacy is not what remains after you leave. It is what continues because you left. In a world obsessed with founders, visionaries, and singular voices, this story offers a rare counterpoint. Impact does not require permanence of presence. It requires permanence of practice. Because what truly lasts is never one person. It is the structure they were willing to disappear into. What the restaurant story also reveals is something about the relationship between ego and craft. Most restaurants that become famous around a founder become famous because of a specific quality of attention. The founder's attention, their taste, their judgment, their presence in the room or the kitchen. Guests sense that attention even when they cannot name it. They return because the food feels like someone who cares is making it. The challenge of succession is not technical. It is not about replicating recipes or maintaining standards. It is about distributing that quality of attention, making it systemic rather than personal, embedding it in the culture of a kitchen rather than the personality of an individual. Most founders cannot do this, not because they lack skill or generosity, but because the attention they have built their reputation on is deeply personal. It lives in how they look at a plate, in what they notice when they walk into a dining room, in the specific quality of judgment they have developed over decades. And distributing something that personal requires a kind of self-dissolution that most people who have built something great are not equipped for, because building requires ego, self-belief, conviction, the willingness to impose your vision on a space. Distributing what you have built requires something almost opposite, the willingness to let your vision become other people's instinct, to trust that what you taught is now more valuable in their hands than in yours. To step back so completely that the restaurant genuinely does not need you, and to find in that not being needed a deeper form of success than any award or recognition could provide. The founder in this story found that. It required years of active restraint, years of watching imperfections without intervening, years of trusting the structure he had built rather than the judgment he still possessed. That restraint was, in the end, his greatest creative act. More demanding than any menu he ever designed, more revealing than any service he ever led, because it required him to disappear into the thing he had built, and discover that the thing was strong enough to hold without him. That is what it means to build something that outlasts you, not to create something that carries your name, but to create something that carries on without needing it. A restaurant